Hey guys, SuperHorrorBro Mike here, and in today's video we take a journey through the latest free update for Boris and the Dark Survival, titled The Wolf Trials. This DLC added in a bevy of additional content to the base game, including some spooky secrets, new audio recordings, and even new enemy types. In this video we take a look at all known content included in the Wolf Trials update, including an analysis of the new tapes and even some light theory talk. Let's kick things off with a look at some returning characters found within Boris and the Dark Survival, The Wolf Trials. First up is the Projectionist. Norman Polk's twisted Frankenstein's monster returns and is more persistent than ever before. He is given an entire stage to himself, which we are spawned into at random at various points during the game. However, after beating this stage, Norman can also appear in regular stages from time to time. A startling sight to be sure. The look of a Projectionist stage is reminiscent of a Projectionist lair from Bendy and the Ink Machine Chapter 3, albeit without projectors looping old episodes of the Bendy cartoons. After all, as Norman said himself,
"It's just the nature of us Projectionists to seek out the dark places."
In these stages, the items Boris is tasked with collecting have changed from things such as books, wrenches and radios to actual hearts. Again, a throwback to Bendy Chapter 3, where Alice tasked Henry with collecting hearts for her. Speaking of Alice Angel, she also makes a return in this update. However, unlike the Projectionist, Alice takes a little work to unlock. As we begin exploring the Wolf Trials update, one of the first points of interest is the door next to the elevator in Boris's safe house. It is now unlocked. On the wall we discover a pinball-esque minigame, which requires the collection of 6 fuses to unlock and holds a secret of its own. More on that one later. We also find a locked door with "Please find me" and "Help" scrawled on the walls around it. Now beside this door is a cassette player, and we are asked to collect tapes which introduce a new character called Milla.
I don't know why I'm even recording this, but I don't know what else to do. Please, whoever you may be, I need your help. My name is Milla. Several days ago, I got lost down in this terrible place. There are monsters here. Things I can't even describe. They're all trying to kill me. I can hear them outside. Please look for my messages. Please, come find me.
These tapes are located inside another new addition that came with this update, procured from rooting around inside the torn up chest cavities of various Boris clones, which are strapped to operating tables found around the levels. As the tapes unfold, we learn more about Milla and her tragic story. Take a listen to the remaining 4 tapes.
My father was a butcher. Rest his soul. My mother and I had only each other while I was growing up. She taught me how to be resilient, strong. But now, I am afraid of that demon outside my door. I saw so many things dismembered in my father's butcher shop. I'm having images of myself ending up as they did, their bodies broken and pulled apart. Please come find me. I don't know how much longer I can stay alive. I like to pretend someone is coming for me. At any moment someone will open this door and save me from this suffering. If a hero exists, no matter what size or shape they may take, now is the time. Please come find me. I am not one to lie. I don't like when people lie to me. My mother always told me, honesty, Milla. Always honesty. Be bright and smile wide. Good things will come. But I can see the world is a cruel place. I want to shine, but it's so dark. Hope is fading down here. The monsters are closing in. Please come find me. There isn't much time. If you found my messages, here is my last one. So this is my final plea. If anyone is out there, if there's anything good left in this world, Look for my hidden key, and then find my door. Please come find me, before it's too late. Sincerely, Milla Yenla.
The final tape tasks Boris with collecting a key, which will finally grant him access to this locked door. Again, the key can be found hidden inside one of the dead Boris clones. However, upon opening the door, we are treated to a secret ending, which introduces a very familiar face. Take a look. So this whole time, Milla has indeed been Alice Angel in disguise. Boris now finds himself against the clock as he rushes to grab his loot before the angel descends upon him. While Alice Angel's stage is modelled around the same structure as both Bendy and the Projectionist, she moves much faster, keeping pace with Boris when running, and catching up in seconds if he runs out of stamina. The most interesting aspect of Alice's return in Boris and the Dark Survival is surely found when we analyse Milla's audio. All the warning signs were there from the start, and we see shades of both Alice and her human side, Susie Campbell, existing within these lines. We know Alice and Susie were both afraid of the ink demon Bendy.
I will not let the demon touch me again.
This is reflected in Milla's lines.
But now, I am afraid of that demon outside my door.
And we also know that Susie Campbell was very close to her mother, as discussed in a teaser for Bendy and the Dark Revival.
The work of a voice actress can be a tough one, Mama.
And Milla mentions her mother here.
I am not one to lie. I don't like when people lie to me. My mother always told me, be bright and smile wide. Good things will come.
This line also discusses how she hates liars. Alice also hates liars, as she mentions in her audio log here in chapter 4.
Alice? Ooh, she doesn't like liars.
This stemming from her mistreatment at the hands of Joey Drew, who promised she could become a living version of Alice, something which didn't quite work out as expected. These lines from Milla may also symbolise the transformation of Susie's good-natured soul into the cruel and twisted persona of Alice Angel. And we get a sense that many of these lines are coming directly from Susie rather than Alice.
I want to shine, but it's so dark. Hope is fading down here.
As for the Russian-sounding accent, well, Susie Campbell was after all a talented voice actress, and so would be a dab hand at impressions. Not to mention Alice's devious side coming into play to think up the diabolical scheme in the first place. She really was a master manipulator. But perhaps the biggest red flag for Milla being Alice in disguise this whole time was the fact she used torn up Boris clones to hide her tapes inside. Anyone who has played or watched Bendy and the Ink Machine will know this is an Alice Angel trademark, and this trap explains how she managed to lure so many different clones to their inevitable demise. Susie was used to the animal anatomy as a result of growing up around a butcher's shop which her father owned. So this explains how this version of Alice knew so much about dissection and organ removal. So that's a brief analysis of Alice's audio in this update, but there are still 2 characters we have yet to cover. The first of these is the Lost One. On very rare occasions, Boris will spawn into a stage as one of these goopy humanoid beings. His movement is slower as he staggers around in the same fashion we saw these failed experiments do in Bendy chapter 5. This is basically a super rare Easter egg with an estimated 1 in 3,000 chance of appearing. No wonder only 1 or 2 people out there have documented it so far. The second of these new characters is an evil hybrid of Boris known as Borkis. His eyes glow bright yellow as if possessed by a demon of his own as he relentlessly chases our Boris through the halls of a level known as floor 414. The number of this floor and the character Borkis both have a history relating to the development of a previous game from Joey Drew Studios, Bendy and the Ink Machine. 414 is a number familiar to Bendy fans for several reasons. It translates to the date April 14th, and this date has been used to release trailers for Bendy and the Dark Revival, as well as dates for audio log teasers too. It even popped up in-game as a secret message. Yes, if you add up all these lines on this tally board, they give you the number 414. So kind of an in-joke by the development team, as is Borkis himself. You see, Borkis originated from a pitch by Matt Goals, a senior programmer at Joey Drew Studios. Matt originally pitched a character for Bendy Chapter 3 that was deemed a little too radical. He jokingly posted this flat-headed version of Boris on his Twitter feed, calling him Borkis. It seems all of this eventually led to this Easter egg being added to the Wolf Trials update of Boris and the Dark Survival, with Matt taking to Twitter to exclaim his surprise at fans already finding something he had buried pretty deep in the game files. The footage you saw here in this video of the Lost Ones and Borkis has been clipped from 2 much longer videos uploaded by a YouTuber called Full Tilt On. He has documented these stages in full detail, so check out his channel and the complete videos linked in the description below this one. Moving on to those lookholes next, and we have some additional content here too. The first is a jump scare displaying a mangled Boris who appears right before our eyes. Next up we have a message, "The machine must endure." This is of course a reference to Bendy and the Dark Revival, as we glimpsed the same words written on a wall during the gameplay trailer released last summer. Finally, on rare occasions, Boris will peek through one of these holes and come across what appears to be a treasure map. On one side of a page we see the letter R, and then what appears to be the outline of a level layout with a set of footprints leading to an X, perhaps marking the location of a secret item. The obvious conclusion would be to assume that this map relates directly to level R, a floor we sometimes spawn on during gameplay. But due to the random generation of the game world, is it even possible to translate this map to the game directly? Again, questions I can't answer at this time. It may be that this map is simply a neat little secret to get people talking. However, much like the trapdoor in Bendy and the Ink Machine, it seems likely this map may eventually lead somewhere and have a deeper meaning. The banjo in the background could mean it ties into a possible reveal of Sammy Lawrence in a future update, or maybe this map leads us to another Sammy sanctuary in one of the levels. After all, we also see a shutter much like the one Sammy hid behind in Bendy Chapter 2. But of course, while Sammy did enjoy playing the banjo, so did Boris, and so we shouldn't assume this teaser relates directly to Sammy, but it is a possibility. Next up are 3 different audio recordings. The first of these is from a character we haven't heard from in a long time, toymaker Shawn Flynn.
So here's what I've been asking myself. Shawn, you went and bought yourself a new one-of-a-kind tool belt. 'Twas a beautiful thing. But last night, you put it up on your shelf. And the very next day, when you came back to this old toy factory, it was gone. Lost to thin air. Now here's the very question I asked myself. Isn't that new one-of-a-kind tool belt that gent fella's wearing this morning just such a beautiful thing? I wonder where he got it. As if I didn't know. The dirty crow.
Shawn laments the loss of his new tool belt, which seems to have been taken by a Gent employee. The only confirmed Gent employee we know worked at the studio was Thomas Connor, so this audio log reveals Connor's dishonest side, a shade of his character we had previously sensed upon the discovery that he was in cahoots with Joey Drew, developing the Ink Machine in secret beneath the studio, a creation which of course led to many human casualties.
Bit of your soul dies with each pipe you put in.
Next up is an audio log from Wally Franks, who sheds further light on both Thomas Connor and the state of the studio.
So here's where the weird starts. I was mopping up some of Mr. Connor's spilled ink in that little room he calls a laboratory. He can call the laboratory all he wants, but it used to be the employee coat closet. Anyway, there I was mopping. But that puddle, I'm telling you, it kept moving this way and that way, like it had the smarts or something. If these messes keep being like this, I'm out of here.
Not only does Wally's new recording give us insight into the mind of Thomas Connor, who seems to have become obsessed with his work on creating living cartoons via the Ink Machine, it also reveals how once again Joey Drew cut corners by forcing Connor, a man of science, to work in an old cloakroom. Anything to save a dime, it would seem. Next we hear about living ink freely roaming the studio, and anyone who has read the Bendy novel Dreams Come to Life will remember that due to leaky ink machine pipes, the special living ink got free and began taking over those it came in contact with. This is further evidence of the studio employees becoming exposed to this dangerous liquid. In fact, many workers may have transformed into inky monstrosities this very way. Finally, there is one hidden audio log from the man himself, Mr. Joey Drew, but you'll have to put in a bit of work to access it. Remember that minigame in the safe house? We need to get that working. To do so, simply search lockers found around the various stages, and some of these will hold the fuses we require. Eventually, if we search for long enough, all 6 will be in our possession. It seems Wally Franks was a big fan of this machine, racking up a high score of 15. You will need to beat this score in order for Joey's recording to unlock. After doing so, it shows up in a hole in the wall beside the minigame, so let's check it out.
It's been quite a struggle to put this into words, Nathan. After so many years, you know I'd never ask unless it was dire. But when a man's in a spot, he should call upon his friends. Truth is, well, the studio is coming up a little short. Hit a few unexpected bumps. If you could lend us the amount I mentioned in my last letter, it would be a big help to me. Hope this reaches you in South America. You and Tessa enjoy your vacation.
Now this audio recording reveals that Joey was in a vulnerable state, a side of him we haven't seen before. Usually he is full of gusto and tough talk, but here he begs his investor Nathan for additional funds to keep his studio going through the tough times. Of course we know now these investor friends stopped helping him out as his studio eventually went bankrupt. This recording is simply a window into Joey's mental state during the final months of the studio's existence. A man who lived with many regrets.
And my road burned. I let our creations become my life.
Before we wrap up this video, it is worth mentioning one final secret, although it's something we cannot access at this time. Remember in the last Boris in the Dark survival video, we touched on the inclusion of a mystery box with no way to open it. Well, just to troll us extra hard, this update includes a second box beside the door to Alice's lair. Once again, it can't be opened and neither can the original box. This likely then relates to a future update or perhaps even the release of Bendy and the Dark Revival. For now they simply remain a mystery for us to ponder, and with that we close off today's video. I hope you have enjoyed a look at all of the new secrets within this update, and if you have, of course, remember to like, comment and subscribe for more horror related content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.